Okay,
Okay.
so I'm very curious to hear um, your essays, and uh, you had a lot of different topics, did you? And when I looked at the different possibilities, it's quite a lot of things to look at, and your choices were very, very interesting. Um, so I think we should start. And well, obviously, we're starting with John.
I'm still half on New York time, half on Sicily time, so it's not
Okay,
too
okay.
bad for me.
For people who came late, John is dialing in from Sicily, and um, what time is it there now?
We are 6 hours ahead, so it's 1 a.m. for me.
I
But half of my
Good for
brain
you.
is still in New York, so
Good for you. Good for
I
you.
no sympathies here.
No, no, good for you. This is what we want. Um, okay. Oh, I have to show the pictures.
Oh, yes.
Let me
Okay.
see. Let me see. How am I going to do this? More share. Um, okay. Um,
Oh, interesting.
If you can eliminate that little side panel, I think things will get bigger.
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm going to
If
try.
you hit slideshow at the top, it's in the
Um,
middle on the top slideshow.
yeah, just hold on, hold on. Let me find that. Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, and hit play from start.
Play from start.
Oh, no.
I've been meaning to tell you, John, how much I enjoy your essays. You're so
Oh,
eloquent.
thank you, hon.
Uh,
Thank you so much.
where is play from start?
No.
Uh, did you hit slideshow? Do it again.
Uh,
And
oh yeah.
then far to the left, the first, if
Oh
you go
yeah.
down a
Yeah.
little, yeah,
I
all
got
the
it.
way
Right
over.
there.
I got it.
There
Okay.
you go.
Okay. Okay. Um,
How interesting, John.
okay. This is uh quite daring to
Yeah,
me.
Hmm.
Hey, um,
it's
but
great.
go for it.
Okay. Now, I want to say that Simon and everybody, I started this early knowing that I was going to travel. And I was assuming Simon would give us the option of comparing this to a painting of our choice. So in my
Yeah.
quick start, I hadn't read the latest instructions. So
No,
I
no.
don't think
You
I'm
got it. You
repeating.
got it. You got it.
Okay.
This is even better. I should have suggested this, but
Okay.
I would have never suggested this. No, I should have suggested.
When,
Yeah.
when I saw her work, the quality of her edges, I will say, and her colors reminded me of Rothko. And then I referenced Rothko and I said, well, maybe I have something here. The Poetry of Being, if you can't read the little bitty type there, is a phrase from H.W. Jansen, who wrote History of Art, that big thick art Bible
Right.
that I had when I was in college. And a neighbor, my next door neighbor is a teacher, and she put it out on her stoop, but I picked it up, started reading it again. And this phrase struck me. And it also struck me that that guy was a really good writer and a really good looker at what was in front of him. So anyway, comparing Helene Scherfbeck with Mark Rothko. And here's the essay. Helene Scherfbeck, the Finnish modernist, and Mark Rothko, an American color field painter, share many characteristics when compared. Scherfbeck created figure paintings of people immersed in spiritual auras. Rothko created spiritual paintings of auras. He called these abstractions dramas and the
Hmm.
shapes within them performers. So descriptions of these two paintings and their shared characteristic follows. And when I'm speaking about one, I'm sort of speaking about both of them. In both works, a limited number of simple shapes create a sense of unlimited space. The shapes are soft, robust, but fragile. Feathered edges dissolve into adjacent shapes. Color is luminous, translucent, hovering just above the canvas to become living, resonating color forms. Both paintings are alive with a soft fullness. There is no inactive space, no tentative shadow, no neutral background.
Mm.
The work appears loosely conceived with a confident outward calm and an inner tension. Color and form vibrate and their edges quiver. Time in both paintings is present and palpable. Scherfbeck's self-portrait is less a fixed, decisive moment, but rather a dozen painted moments, a visual record of slow, thoughtful observations assembled over time. Likewise, Rothko's abstraction is dense narrative of simple forms expressing complex thought and emotion. The artists have created a visual catalyst for our eye.
Lovely.
Very well written. Really, really well written.
I just want to sum up here and bring it back to this concept. Time is perhaps, in my humble opinion, time is perhaps what these two artists are ultimately expressing when we consider that their paintings represent no specific emotion nor any specific action, only and I'm quoting now, a deeply felt poetry of being.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah,
Excellent, John.
yeah. I really
Thank
like
you,
that.
thank you.
That's incredible.
Do you get that
Great
poetry of
choice.
being? Jensen was referring to these Greek gods and goddesses who, this late high classical style, who direct action, but they sort of float above it. They don't get their hands dirty. They're directing it, but they're more like they're willing it just by their presence. And I like this painting of Scherfbeck's because she just seems to float above it all. She's not anywhere near that messy part of her life, but sort of, confident and immune to slings and arrows, if you will.
Mm, mm.
And, the Rothko is just sort of a forever thing in its own right.
Yeah, very interesting. I have a comment about that, but let's go on and then maybe
Yeah.
come back to that. So the next one I have is Len, and that is these two. Len,
So I'm attempting to do this from my phone from the first time. We're actually on vacation. So first question is, can you hear me?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, very good. I'm gonna dive in then. These are two paintings by Felice Casarati. On the left is The Old Comrades, 1908, oil on canvas, approximately 4 by 3.5 feet. And on the right is The School Children, 1927, oil on canvas, approximately 5 by 4.5 feet. A good portrait is an enigma. What mystery lies behind Mona Lisa's smile, Dr. Gachet's melancholia, the wide-eyed curiosity of the girl with the pearl earring? Even Leonardo, Vincent, and Johannes may not have known the inner mind of their subjects, but they were able to capture their ineffable mystery. An ensemble, in contrast, presents a multidimensional challenge. Why this group? What is their collective tale? What is their relationship with the artist and each other? Casorati painted The Old Comrades in 1908 at the age of 25. When youth looks at age, what does it see? In this case, the subjects are wizened and wizened. I have named them for convenience. On the left, the equanimous Constanza finds purchase on her walking stick.
Mm.
Beatrice gazes stoically ahead.
Mm.
Carmela peers inquisitively at the artist, unabashed by her missing tooth. Bruna looks impassively forward. In the center, Lucia and Gabriella bask in the attention of the artist, delighted to play a featured role. Livia rests, seated, looking down in a moment of weariness, but her richly adorned shawl conveys a vibrant spirit. Stefania turns her back on Casorati. How much longer? I must prepare the Sunday gravy. An eclectic array of women of experience, each wrinkle on their face a lesson, a memory, perhaps 700 years of collective wisdom. The setting is nondescript because the old comrades are timeless. Casorati was older, himself wiser, when he painted the school children in 1927 at the age of 44. The setting is given more attention. Tiled floor, rich table tapestry, chalkboard, symboled manuscript, and spinning globe. Perhaps because the children themselves are nascent in their understanding of themselves and of the world. Not a line on their faces.
Mm.
Where they do engage the artist, it is with the simplicity of youth. The young girls, far left and far right, avert their eyes. The boy stares at the artist anxiously. Behind the boy, one girl rests her eyes while the other seems content to fade into the background. Only the girl center right, with hand over heart, seems to survey the artist with cautious curiosity, the vaguest hint that one day she too will wizen and wizen. What is the yesterday and tomorrow of each of these old comrades, of each of these school children? We will never know. But cast side by side, Casorati shows us that wisdom is not a possession, but a journey.
Mm.
Nicely done, Len.
Nicely.
It's
Thank you.
so well done, Len. It's so full of irony and insight. This is really one of your best pieces, I think.
Oh, well, thank you, Simon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, really, really. So maybe it just went by me. How old was Casorati when he did the second one?
I think I said 44.
44.
44. Yeah,
Well-
and interestingly, he married very late in life, and he had a child relatively late in life. So it occurred to me that, you know, some of those core human experiences that do wizen a human being occurred later in his life.
But this seems to me to be counterintuitive. I would have thought that the one on the left was done when he was older, and the one on the right when he was younger.
That was my thought exactly.
Yeah.
And I struggled with whether to put the school children on the left and the old comrades on the right and work through it in that sort of chronology of subject. But somehow I thought the chronology of the age of Casorati was a little more quirky.
Does anyone want to say something or comment or have a question for Len? I, I, I,
My comment would be, I did not realize that Casarotti had evolved this much until Len put them side by side. And I admire him for Len and Casarotti for bringing that to life.
well, that your point is very good. This is the same evolving world as Schurfbeck.
Yes, very academic on the left.
Academic, but
Academic, but with that touch of mystery, as Len referred to. You
well,
don't quite
I
know.
would call it something else. I would call it maybe more naturalistic.
Mhm.
On the left, and on the right, there's more abstraction going on.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay, so the next one is Wendy, which is this one here. Am I correct, Wendy? Hello?
Hello.
Wendy, did I put the right ones up?
You did.
Okay,
That's
good,
perfect.
good.
Thanks. Okay. So on the left is Jeff Beck's The Sailor, and on the right is Passerotti's The
Wendy,
Wind.
could you speak up a bit?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not used to this. I'm on a new machine. Okay. Hopefully, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better. Better.
It's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Sometimes I can't hear you.
I can hear you. It's a little muffled.
Oh, okay. I'll try to speak up.
Okay, that's better.
Okay. Thanks. Next, extended, sinewy, vulnerable. Both paintings express longing, but from opposing perspectives. One depicts the woman longing, other a man who is longed for.
Wendy, why don't you sit back a little bit and try speaking a little louder.
Okay. Let's get closer to the mic. Is that better?
It's a little difficult to hear.
Hmm.
How about that's good? What you just did is good.
Okay. I'm so sorry. You can hear it now.
Nope.
Do you want me- I can go on to my phone instead. That's what I do.
Give that a try.
Okay.
I like the little bit I heard so far.
Me too. I want to hear more.
Okay. So can hold on.
That's wild. We haven't had an audio problem like that yet, I don't think.
No, I've not encountered that. I'm not sure. I don't have enough technical expertise to understand.
Here's Wendy back.
Hi. I'm here and I'm gonna.
No, that's good.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I just won't use my earphones at all.
Wait, Wendy, is that you?
That's
Yeah.
me.
Oh, you sound great.
This is much
Yeah.
better. This is much
Oh,
better.
good.
Okay. Should I start from the beginning or no?
Yes,
Yes, please.
start from the
Yes.
beginning. Start from the beginning. This is
Okay.
much better.
Yay. Okay. Two necks, both extended, sinewy, vulnerable. Both paintings express longing, but from opposing perspectives. One depicts a woman longing, the other a man who is longed for.
Hmm.
The subject of Casarati's painting waits so long, apparently, that she is turning into her surroundings. Her neckline echoes the bowls on the table. Her sleeves and hands, the checkerboard tiles. The lines of her arm and neck follow the lines of the tablecloth. Her longing diminishes her as she blends in with and becomes a part of her room. Scherfbeck's sailor is also affected by his surroundings, as there are brush strokes that follow the lines of his neck, muscular arms, and chest. But this blurred background seems to be adapting to him, almost caressing him, and calling attention to his masculine lines. Casarati's background, on the other hand, is altering his subject, making her less fully human. In the movie Helene, we witness the sailor's creation and watch as Scherfbeck leans in, longing to kiss the neck she is memorializing in paint.
Hmm.
Sailor in the image arches with confidence, nonchalance, his beauty longed for, his muscles curving beyond what is realistic.
Hmm.
This sailor has a life outside the picture frame, indicated by the painting's title and demonstrated by his sunburnt upper neck and forearm. He's been out in the sun. Casarati's subject, on the other hand, may never leave that room. She is becoming a part of it, and she is defined only by what she lacks. I was moved by both paintings, though I confess my view of the sailor was informed by what I had seen in Helene. Both paintings may depict unrequited love. I imagine Casarati's woman waiting for someone she loves who has failed to arrive, while I remember Scherfbeck in the movie painting that image in the electricity of standing beside the man she yearns for. In a sense, Scherfbeck herself might be the woman depicted in The Waiting.
Uh, hmm. Any
That was awesome.
any
Fantastic.
comments on that? That's really where are you? Where are you? Wendy?
Bravo.
Really,
Yeah.
really wonderful.
I like both these paintings so much more, or appreciate these paintings so much more having heard that.
Yes, John, I agree. I
Absolutely.
agree.
You know, Wendy, are you sure you're not a shill for this class?
Yeah, what is this? What's going on here?
I must be an incredible teacher. I can't tell you how well I can teach good writing. I really
Just
have
one
an
lesson.
ability to teach good writing. And Wendy, where are you?
I can't hearing. I'm sorry.
Uh,
Here, I promise.
super, super.
So wonderful.
Yeah,
Really good.
So
really
much.
super. You should try a three-card Monte. Um, okay, so Anne Marie is next, and so this is Anne Marie. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay, well, these two still lifes are simple compositions that reach a level of abstraction as you look more closely at the surface. They could be called experiments in scraping. That is the adding and subtracting of layers. John's description last week of the sound of Helene painting with the palette knife brought her paintings to life for me. So I wanted to explore what it is that we see on the surface that creates that energy that we saw and heard in the movie. The first one is still life in green. She was 68 when she painted this. It's 1 foot by 1 inch by 1 foot by 7 inches. They're pretty small. Okay, from a distance, you see a white plate with variations of different green fruits composed in a typical still life composition. The variations of green bring harmony to the composition. The dark background pushes the bowl of fruit to the fore. As we get closer and focus on the surface of the painting, we can see that this harmony is actually a cacophony of marks. I see the palette knife marks are vertical or horizontal smears of luscious greens and yellow ochre. This gives the fruit opacity. There are some boundaries being crossed where the forms overlap and blend into the background. The plate has both additive and subtracted layers. The additive whiteness brings the light, while the subtracted dark brings the depth. As I move around the edges of the canvas, I see, but also hear, the scraping of the knife to remove unnecessary clutter in order to find the light. The dark washes are thin around the plate, except where the light does not penetrate. We see the plate. The darkest is to the right, but the light is dispersed again in washes of white and gray to the left. She has found a way to express light in a different way. The unpainted areas along the side and bottom reveals not a lack of finish, but bringing the viewer into the process. On the right is still life with blackening apples. She did this when she was 82. The edges of the composition start with the first layer, the canvas itself. I can hear the palette knife gliding over the greens, and the green thick on the palette knife smoothly moving around the objects. The purples are beautiful. They're smoothly placed on top of the browns in a vertical direction. The opaque black sits on a purple pedestal. The deep yellow shares a red edge with the blackened apple. The gray behind it shows a fast palette knife marking. The dark are intermittently covering the lighter tones. She is moving fast, not stopping at the edges, using the tip of the palette knife for a splotch of yellow, purple, viridian, a white green, beautiful richness and color. The bright yellow green next to the red brings a light that emanates from the yellow. The vertical movement of the purple continued down to the bottom. A scraping of green behind the forms bring harmony and completeness.
Yes, very good, very good. Very much involved with slow looking and like really looking hard at things. Compliments, excellent.
I
Yeah.
love
Beautiful,
this.
Anne-Marie. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I saw
Um,
these in person and I can hear what you're saying while I look at them, or while I looked at them, bringing them back, what you
Yeah.
said about them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So the next one is Kathy, and this is Kathy. I would just say that what I remember about the Holbein painting of the merchant on the left, what I remember is that the wall is a slightly brighter or somewhat brighter green. And what I remember thinking that it's unusual to see that kind of green in a Renaissance painting, 1500s. So this is slightly gray. It's just I didn't have the time to find an even better reproduction, but it's good. It's good. So
Did you stop now?
yeah, start now. Yeah. Kathy.
Okay, chosen the Holbein paintings, portrait of Georg Gysa, dated 1532. It's 34 by 38 inches, oil on wood, and the body of the dead Christ in the tomb, dated 1520 to 1522, 12 inches by 78 inches, and that is oil and tempera on wood. These are two vastly different paintings. They contrast in dimension, format, color palette, and props or lack thereof. Both paintings were commissioned pieces. The portrait of Georg Gysa, a wealthy merchant from a prominent family, was commissioned by Gysa during the time he was stationed in London, working with the family business. In the portrait, the tools of his trade, the still life objects surrounding him, are rich with symbolism. The carnation symbolized his engagement to be married. A clock represented the fleeting time and the need to use it wisely. Coins, a ledger, the family seal, all objects in the painting which were connected to the life and work of the sitter rather than for mere decorative purposes. Holbein used a warm color palette of olive green, pale cadmium red, gold, and burnt sienna. The values show a strong contrast of lights and darks, with the strongest contrast near the focal point, which is the sitter. In stark contrast to this portrait is the painting, The Body of the Dead Christ in the Tomb. There are no adornments as in the portrait of the merchant. Christ was born into poverty, lived in poverty, and died in poverty. Holbein painted a realistic dead Christ rather than an idealized version. In this painting, we see the emaciated figure with head, hand, feet, and side painted a deep purplish tone, depicting the areas of the body that were severely wounded by this manner of execution, a crucifixion. The graphically painted dead Christ stunned those viewing the painting. A similar reaction to the crucified Christ was the painting by Grunewald, the Iseum altarpiece, which was seen by Holbein as a young man. This greatly influenced Holbein in his portrayal of Christ. The ornate frame gives the feeling of an altar, representing the dead Christ as the lamb that was slain, as he is referred to in biblical texts. Lastly, in both paintings, there is an identifying inscription. In the portrait of Georg,
Yes.
thank you, the plaque bears his name and age, 34. In the dead Christ, it reads, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. His age was 33 at death.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful. Really, really well done. I have a comment on this, but anyone want to say something? Well, let me just say something. First off, the selection of these two is wonderful, and the juxtaposition of different directions. I am a big fan of the writer Thomas Mann, and in one of his short stories, now I've drawn a blank on which story it is. It's either Death in Venice or Tonio Kruger. Both I highly recommend. Mann describes himself as a bourgeois manqué. So by that he means a bourgeois individual who is gone astray of sorts. And I think what he means there is that he is an artist, a writer, but he has all of the trademarks of a member of the bourgeoisie. He has the regularity of his art, the regularity of his writing, the regularity of his life, but every other part of it separates himself from the bourgeoisie. And I've often thought of this this idea that Mann was putting forward, and I must say that I actually share that point of view. So I personally am very regular about what I'm doing. I try to work every day. I could work 100 straight days every day in the morning, and I maintain a certain kind of consistency, but everything else about it is a little nutty, crazy. And so in a way, this man is a kind of Mann's representative. his personality comes through in this man, the merchant Georg Giza.
Mhm.
Georg Giza is a representation of Mann's world, where they see each other both ways. And I realized this many years after this individual was located in the very middle of my triptych. Okay. I didn't think about that. I just liked the painting.
Mhm.
It took me 15 or 20 years to realize that I had a secret Shira, which was this man, my secret Shira. Um, well, if you can take that in, you're pretty good. You're pretty good. You're pretty good.
Mhm.
Next is Rita, which is this one. Okay.
Uh, a delicate burst of purple and red and white at lower right captures the eye. An armful of gathered posies gently laid among the riotous profusion of flowers. And then the eye is swept upward to the revelation that is this ethereal, sleeping beauty. Myth, fairy tale, Bible story, all resonate, but are secondary to the painting's floral vibration. Made drowsy by the intoxicating aromas, by the luminous haze above her, by the mad kaleidoscope of nature's design, our serene maiden sleeps, deep in reverie, enfolded in Mother Earth's kinetic embrace. Felice Casarate captures that magical moment, that sweet suspension of time, when benevolent pinpoints of light shimmer beneath closed eyelids, and the soul is transported. Henri Rousseau's dreamy nude is no romanticized, delicate maiden. Reminiscent of Edward Manet's Olympia, she reclines in tranquility in all her glory. She is self-contained, regal in bearing, an earth goddess who rules her lovely wild realm from the comfort of her throne. The snake charmer serenades her. The snake slithers away. The lions, those kings of the jungle, are gentle, even reticent as they approach. The winds dare not disturb her stillness. Her luminescent skin, her sensual curves, her abundant tresses, her unabashed nakedness are titillating points of interest in this exotic jungle of fantastical hothouse flowers and lush leaves dipped in saturated shades of green. Rousseau's simple, strange, exaggerated elements of nature have a compelling allure and a perfect calm. The lost world of our youthful fantasies. We are enchanted.
Oh, fantastic.
Fantastic.
It, anyone want to comment on this or ask a question of Rita?
I would just like to say that was fabulous, Rita.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Right? I've never seen Simon put his hands on top of his head like that before. I think that was a good sign.
You know, I often don't want to comment on pictures, paintings that are pretty. Sometimes I feel they don't have enough irony for what I want to say. And I almost had to force myself to drop all previous opinions of paintings like this and look with fresh eyes. And I did, and I found them very, very alluring.
That's
Nice
wonderful. That is
Nice
a new
job.
thing. Yeah.
Well, this is a non sequitur. Well, maybe not really, but I wanted to mention that the next two classes, the theme of the next two classes seems appropriate to mention now, which is to sleep, perchance to dream. And though that is from an exhibit that is on now at the Marmottan Museum in Paris. I saw some, someone had posted many images from that exhibit, and I thought it would make an interesting theme. So those two classes would be devoted to the images that I saw online, plus others that I'm going to add to that. And then the third class would be your writing about two of those images. So that's my design for the last three classes. And this is a wonderful choice, these two. Really, really wonderful. And beautiful piece of writing. Yeah, really beautiful. So the next is Ann Piper. And this is what Ann chose, which
Yeah.
okay.
I had no idea. As a new person here, I didn't know I was sharing the room with so many poets. This is
No,
maybe a little bit more formalist.
no, that's not you do what you want. That's not really the case. I
Gorgeous writing, everybody. I mean,
no,
seriously.
no, yeah, absolutely. You write out of your prism and your influence, but you're writing for yourself and to see where you go with it.
All right. So here's where I went with it. So the two paintings that I'm be discussing are the portrait of Helena Westermark from 1884 on the left, and the skier, also known as the English Girl or the Red-Cheeked Girl from 1909, both by Helene Scherfbeck. In Scherfbeck's earlier piece, which is a portrait of her friend, I see a very individualized likeness with a strong delineated profile. The figure, painted with brushstrokes both fine and general, locks together these two sensibilities in a skillful way. I notice the subtle blending of colors and a delicate touch, mostly toward the focal point of the piece, which is the face, and then there is a more gestural handling of the paint toward the edges of the composition. The transition from delicate to bold is believable, yet so complete that we only understand the collar of the model's shirt. Her clothing below and that of the space in which she exists are only barely suggested. I assume it's an interior due to the absence of blue sky or clouds, and the only suggestion of space seems to be something of a glowing warm daylight against a nondescript surface, like a white or a light-colored wall. So Scherfbeck is utilizing selective focus, which I find particularly moving. I feel that the way this figure is portrayed relates to the way that people most often see the world around them. Essentially, we couldn't possibly take in all of the minute details of everything around us at once. That would be information overload. So what we do subconsciously is to have a hierarchy of visual information that we use in order to survive day by day. So the way that Scherfbeck has handled this resolution of forms here, revealing things from the more specific to the more general, makes me feel as if I am looking at this person with her, not just looking at something that has been seen in the past or by somebody else.
Could you read that again?
That paragraph, yes.
That sentence, the last sentence.
The last sentence?
Yeah.
The last two sentences. Here we go. The way that Scherfbeck has handled the resolution of forms here, revealing things from the more specific to the more general, makes me feel as if I am looking at this person with her, not just looking at something that has been seen in the past or by somebody else.
Very good sentence. Very good.
Thank you. In this painting, which I'm definitely captivated by, I am initially drawn to the general level of high contrast between the value of the figure and the value of the background, which is a darker against a lighter background. The colors in this portrait that stand out to me mostly are the pinkish peach seen on the fleshier or more prominent areas of the face, specifically on the cheek, the area around the mouth, and the mouth itself, and the nose. The areas of thinner flesh or more receded spaces are portrayed with a very neutralized grayish green, which is the opposite of a pinkish color, and that's seen in the temples and in the area around and within the eye socket. And I don't know that this slide is as dramatic as it is in real life, but gray, green, and pinkish peach. The subtlety here is incredible. The paint is softly blended, and despite the more aggressive brushstrokes around it, this gives a feeling of tactile flesh, with the lifeblood evident beneath it. It's very astutely observed and even more keenly depicted. What I know is that there's an artist's touch here that is hard to describe. So on the right, 25 years later, we have the second painting, and I'll call her the red-cheeked girl rather than using all of her titles. And I look at this image and I think this is a painter who has all of the information. She's honed her craft for a very long time, from a very young age, and knows things about color and shape and value like the back of her hand. I feel that the work that she has done for years has ingrained these things in her, and the vocabulary of painting becomes something of a muscle memory more than it is a complicated thought process. Encountering this painting, one might initially look at it in comparison to the first and think, well, that's quite different. And it is, yet I feel that it has a lot of commonalities with the earlier work. Certainly, the forms are more simplified, more stylized, and as a whole encompass a different mood. However, if we think back to what I said about the last painting, here too we have a high contrast figure to ground composition. In this case, it's light against dark as opposed to dark against light, but again, with the figure in the center being highlighted by the entire composition. I won't say that the pose is the same, since the figure here on the right is pictured from the front, but there are other similarities. Both the women have a thoughtful look to them, with their lids lowered and their lips parted just a little. The selective focus that I mentioned before is still present. The face of the red-cheeked woman has the most information, the most descriptive elements, while the background, as we go to the edges of the composition, is very general with its information. Barely registering a few brushstrokes, it's mostly a few large areas of color. Is this figure outside? It may be more likely since the inclusion of the blue and green colors, yet it still seems like a mystery, especially since the light is quite different between the figure and the ground. I sense that Scherfbeck was using the value of the colors in the backgrounds in both cases to add a heightened sense of drama rather than to follow a narrative script. And if we look at the portrait specifically, one of the things I see in this is that this face, which initially looked a little bit clown-like to me because of the exaggerated pink colors of the cheeks and the paleness of the skin, is actually hearkening back to the earlier portrait. It looks to me like Scherfbeck is using the same knowledge and verisimilitude that she's had all along, but in a shorthand manner. I see that the pink peach that was helping in the earlier painting is here, mainly in the exaggerated fleshy areas of the cheeks, which we now know by the title to be flushed. Also, there is the same kind of neutralized green-gray on the temples and within the eye sockets. It's more dramatic here because it's not blended at all, so it appears to be more like a facade or makeup at first glance. To me, it seems that the artist is working more quickly, with larger shapes on a bigger scale, and with a little bit less delicacy of blending, but still drawing from the vast wealth of information that she had gleaned from a very young age.
Very nice, very nicely done.
Nice choices too.
Thank you.
If you were thinking about how you wrote this, would it be from the point of view of a painter?
That's all I got. I love all the poets in
That's
this class. I
good.
really do, but I couldn't go there.
So that's what you think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And
definitely.
I have another question.
Mhm,
The exhibit that you came to New York to see, this
mhm.
exhibit, did you find that it it made you want to paint?
I did. And in fact, I may have mentioned this before. I won't go into detail, but I had started a painting and come to almost completion on it before I went to the show. And then I was like, oh, it's going to be easy to finish. And then I went to New York and saw this. And when I came back, I thought, there's no way I'm going to finish it the way that I thought I was because
Hmm.
I think I'm completely changed.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I had a hard time finishing it because I was in a
That's very,
different mindset and I wanted to do other things, but it was, I wanted to paint in a sort of exciting new way.
did you find her work inspiring?
All of it. Absolutely all of it.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's terrific.
Yeah. I
Um,
needed to see it in person. It was great.
yeah, that's terrific. Anna, we have you next, and this is Anna's.
Hold on. Okay, yes, I chose the same artist. And so we go back to back, which is good. Let me find my essay. Whoops, I just lost my essay. Hold on a minute. Just left my screen. Here it is. Okay, here we go. Two paintings, both by Helene Scherbeck. The first completed in 1881 when she was 19 years old. The second done in 1904, 23 years later, with Helene now in her 40s. Both paintings compel. Both paintings draw the viewer's eye to the canvas. A boy feeding his little sister reflects her skill and her training, and yet her heart is already visible. It's a big painting, approximately 45 by 37 inches, and apparently was radical in that the two children were considered unworthy of such a large canvas. But that is why we look at it, because she has given these small beings importance. The painting was painted in Brittany during the time that Helene was studying at the Académie Colarossi Rossi in Paris. The painting is an early naturalist piece influenced by French realism. Helene easily captures the rapport between the two children and carefully reveals their poverty as she renders their clothing and the boy's straw-filled clogs. The setting is dark, and there is something about the brushwork in the wall behind the children that speaks to her future work, which will focus more on shape and color, eliminating the earlier need for detail. Simultaneously, the bowl from which the boy ladles the porridge practically shimmers and glows.
Hmm.
By the time Helene paints Girl Crocheting, her style is very much her own, and there is no evidence of that French influence. Girl Crocheting is a much smaller painting, approximately 15 by 14 inches. Within this small frame, Helene's mastery is revealed through the simplicity of line, the subtle variation in color, and an exquisite composition. The viewer zeroes in on the girl's working hands and then becomes aware of the transparent curtain, the table, and the background wall. Helene captures the girl's bent head, which corresponds perfectly to her bent feet. The girl is crocheting, but she is also at peace, calmly focused on her work. In these 20 years, Helene has gone from being a realist to a modernist. Girl Crocheting is created back home in the isolation of Finland, and the simplicity of form, the subtle palette, as well as her muted brush work somehow reflects the environment in which she lives. The heart that was already surfacing in her realist phase is now visibly palpitating, giving us a glimpse of both the exterior and the interior of the crocheting girl. Knowing too how Helene's paintings will further change in the future, becoming even more lean and minimal, we are confronting the power of her genius. There is something in these images that compel and instruct. They are almost like a guidebook to the reality of life, an understanding of what it means to be human.
Very good.
Hannah, that's wonderful.
Very striking.
Beautiful. I love that image on the right. That was so good.
Yeah,
What a comparison.
yeah, very striking, Anna, and very shrewd in the way the images are poles, really, or polarities in her personality. Um, just absolutely fascinating. Uh, I came out of that show with so many questions, and that was the best part. When I was just walking down the street and thinking of all the different questions that occurred. Um, very well done. Thank you. So I have Ron next, which is this.
Oh, wow.
I've titled this essay "A Touch of Cassarotti." I've just, the first work on the left is titled "Young Girl on a Red Carpet." It's a large oil on canvas painting, approximately 40 by 40 inches in size, painted about 1912 and residing at the Museum of Fine Arts in Ghent, Belgium. The second on the right is entitled "The Young Maidens." It's likewise an oil on canvas painting, approximately 78 by 74 inches, also painted in 1912. It's in the Museum of Modern Art in Venice, having been purchased out of the Venice Biennale of that year. Both are from the artist's, quote, symbolist period and reflect the influence of Gustav Klimt. We're said to possess 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. When we view a work of art, it's our capacity for sight which is engaged. Rarely can I recall other senses activated by works in 2-dimension. A compellingly realistic landscape might elicit memories of sounds and smells. An orchestra or chorus of angels might suggest the sound of music, but rarely, in my experience, have paintings engaged the sense of touch as strongly as these 2 Cassarottis. In the painting on the left, a young woman reclines on a complex broadloom carpet splashed with sunlight. Her right arm rests on a velvet cushion. Her left hand engages the fur of her sleeping dachshund. The objects displayed within her reach are exquisitely rendered by the artist. They include flowers, books, grapes, chinaware, lacquer boxes, a rubber doll, and an oriental fan. They all invite her touch as well as ours. Cassarotti succeeds in engaging vicariously our tactile sense as we contemplate the ambiguous mood of the scene. In the larger painting on the right, Cassarotti has assembled not 3, but 4 graces of a sort. Each of the maidens of the title is identified by a small banner at their feet. From left to right, they read Dolores, her expression pained, hands touching her cheeks. The next, Violante, looking askance, violated somehow, in her violet dress, hands holding a fine blue and gold porcelain. Bianca, exposing her pale nudity with a gesture of resignation, the back of her right hand touching Violante's dress. And the last, Gioconda, her hands holding her folded arms with an incongruous smile, perhaps a reference to the Mona Lisa, on her face. Each of the women's hands are engaged in gestures of contact, in acts of touch. Strewn about, Cassarotti conjures up more luxurious objects, which, with the exception of the stalking turkey, invite our engagement with touch as well. I'd be interested to know if others of this group can recall art which has likewise evoked the sense of touch.
Comment,
Wow.
Comments or questions or asides?
Great choices, and I really liked what you had to say. I hadn't thought of that before. The sense of touch. The one on the right is one of my favorite paintings. I love that. Very nice.
Well, and these are both new to me, but I am now desperately trying to think of paintings where the sense of touch is evoked, and I think I'm going to have to think about that for a while.
Mhm.
But both of these are strongly doing that for me, you know, symbolically and then more sort of naturalistically in the one on the left.
Mhm.
It's interesting how in both paintings there are these items on the floor that are uh, either communicating with each other or communicating vertically with the people. And they seem like throwaway items, but my guess is that they all have some symbolic or pertinent connection with the people above.
Mhm.
Um, um,
Mm.
I still have a comment based on the first few essays and this one, which I'd like to come to, but I want to keep going. So this is very good, and the the um, the question you asked to start with, Ron, is a question that I've not thought of, and I can't come up with an answer. I just your question is very good about
Mm.
a painting satisfying all of these senses, and I have to think about it more. But
Mhm.
it's a very good question. Um, so now we have Philippa, which is this one. Philippa,
Okay,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to turn my camera off, and I apologize. It's warm weather, and we have motorcycles, so it sounds as though my windows are open, but they are not. But I'm going to close my camera. Helen Scherfbeck was born in Helsinki, Finland in 1862. When the film Helene opens, Helene is an adult of an indeterminate age. She is dressed plainly but smartly and is quite pretty. She's well spoken, but she is uncomfortable in her surroundings. She is being interviewed and is not too intimidated to ask the interviewer to hurry and not to write too much about her. She has been out of the art circuit for 10 years and just wants to enter a painting in a raffle. He tells her that no matter what she says, she is likely to offend somebody. He asks her why she has painted about war and poverty and that they are not suitable subjects for a female artist. Helene bristles at being referred to as a female artist. She is an artist. As if being a female artist wasn't difficult enough, she lived in a time and place that was particularly oppressive. Both the climate and traditions could be extremely harsh and isolating. From the beginning, we see the challenges she faced and the evidence of her strength and determination. A serious accident at age 4 caused permanent damage to her hip, and she walked with a cane for her entire life. Her artistic talent was evident at an early age and was the force that gave her strength and kept her moving forward despite a challenging and mostly solitary lifestyle. Finland is a land of sharp contrasts. The film sets were stark. The surfaces were hard. There was a coldness. Except for carefully placed light, the interior was quite dark. The film was interspersed with wonderful vignettes. The killing paint on the walls, the dramatic use of lighting, the careful compositions made it seem very painterly, lifted me from the oppression and made me want to linger a moment. In one scene, some flowers and a pair of shoes created a dramatic still life. In another, Helene has been doing chores, wearing a headscarf. She looks out of the window and feels and it feels so beautifully composed, I think of Vermeer.
All right. Oh, there we go.
There is a candle burning in many of the scenes, and I think of Georges de la Tour, and I wonder if it signifies a deeper meaning. One couldn't ignore the acoustics in this film. Sound echoed in a house that was mostly silent, in a house where there seemed to be no laughter, where there were few soft furnishings, and where Helene was so often forced to hold her tongue. With the scraping and scumbling of the paint against the canvas, I felt her angst and frustration. When she was throwing out the water, I thought of the feelings the water might hold, as she surely would have preferred being in her studio to scrubbing floors. Even as a single artist, Helene was expected to maintain the daily household chores. Her mother clearly embraced the cultural traditions and was a disagreeable and oppressive woman. She had ultimate control over Helene's life. Helene must have built a thick armor around herself, as she had such limited control over her own life. She wasn't always able to speak as she would like, but her resolve remained, even when she had to keep it to herself. She was used to isolation and preferred it. When Einar came with the dealer to buy her paintings, it must have been such an extraordinary event. She was cautious, but one can see why she fell for Einar. It must have felt like a dream. He was really interested in her and her painting. He didn't talk of her as a female artist, only as an artist, a painter worthy of attention. He was handsome, interesting, and she could be somebody else when she was with him, comfortable being a strong artist, but also able to let down her guard, wear feminine clothing, and have intimate conversations in comfortable and lively cafes. Art created an intimacy between them. Einar was an oaf. He was completely unaware of the depth of Helene's feelings and took intimacy, such as it was at that time, much too casually. He broke her heart. That is not a euphemism. People can give up their will to live when they have a broken heart. Helene took to her bed. It was her friend who had given her encouragement before who helped her heal. It wasn't just that Einar hurt her badly, but now she had no chance of escaping the Stark household and oppression of her mother, and was considered more of a burden in that culture. Eventually, she began to heal. She took the high road, recognizing the value in the artistic connection with Einar. She said she would apologize, and then she endured an agonizing dinner party with Einar and his wife, where she had to watch his wife perform for everybody while Einar smiled and glanced at Helene, and she sat dumbly, trying to hold back tears, and remained silent. The thing that had always sustained her wouldn't let her give up. She reached out for her brushes and paint again and went back to work. This time she had been truly broken, and she was aware of a darkness she hadn't been before. There was no need for pretense. She needed to express her truth, whatever that was. Her painting became increasingly minimalistic as she went deeper into the essence of who she was. She used less color until eventually her paintings were black and white. Nobody was going to tell her what was appropriate to paint as a woman. She was a human being and a deeply feeling and thinking artist. As she aged, she looked more bird-like. As elderly people often do, the bones and cartilage become more apparent. She let go of any ego and let the brush speak, not because it was the bravest thing to do, but because it was her life force and she had no choice. Helene once said, "We forget what we were trying to reach our whole lives." She didn't bow to tradition or the whims of others. She didn't have a big ego. She didn't think others should either. Helene said of her mother, "For decades, we shouted at each other as if from different islands. There she lies now, voiceless on her island. But was she merely my valuable tormentor or the obstacle to my success?"
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, really, really touching.
Thank you.
Yeah, really special.
Thank you.
Lot of feeling in your writing, and also conveying what you saw. Um,
Very well said, well written. I've followed you easily through the whole thing.
Thank you so much. And just a note on the left, the painting on the left in particular, I thought was just beautiful, stark, moody, but
Yeah.
very beautiful.
It's absolutely stunning, really. The next,
I just have to jump in. I thought these were film stills, even the one on the left.
yes, they are.
They are.
They are.
Oh, okay.
No, they are.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't
I would-
explain the paintings.
No,
Yeah.
no. I was going to say thank you for making me realize how artistically, how painterly this film was.
Oh, very much.
Yeah,
Very Andrew Wyeth-like.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are other scenes I really would have liked to have shown. I really loved the one on the left, but there were a couple of others I really loved, but I couldn't find shots of them.
Yeah.
I thought they were paintings until you got into it, Philippa. Paintings I hadn't seen.
They did a good
Yeah.
job then.
No,
Actually,
you did a good job.
these two stills remind me a bit of the Russian filmmaker Andrei Tarkovsky, whose work you should look at. The next one is Susan Charney.
Would you quickly say the name of that Russian filmmaker again so I can write it down?
Tarkovsky. Tarkovsky.
Okay,
And
thank you.
first name is Andrei, Andrei. And he did a film on an artist, Andrei Rublev. Andrei, same spelling, and Rublev is Rubl, I think Yev. And Andrei Rublev is sensational. Maybe a top 10 film of all time.
Wow.
He also did the film Solaris.
Oh, I love Solaris.
But it's the Russian one that he did.
I love them both.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let me go on. This is Susan, and these are hers. Susan, I see you here, so you can't escape.
Yeah. I have to say I'm new to the class, and I was not expecting to write an essay.
Well, no, I just meant right.
Oh, and then I couldn't mount the essay, the images, so I figured, well, forget it. What a relief. And I thought to contact Ann Piper. And
here you are doing it.
You were asking.
Would you like
a gal after my own heart?
Susan, would you like to say something?
Yeah, okay, so I'll say that I've been to the Frick. These are two paintings. On the left is the Polish writer, and on the right is Rembrandt's self-portrait. And these are from the Frick, where I have gone off and on many, many years. I lived in New York for a long time. And whenever I enter that main gallery, I look for this Rembrandt self-portraits. Although he's known that for most of his life, he did self-portraits, and many times with costumes. I only know this one. And I'm uncertain of how much my appreciation of this painting comes from my familiarity and known history of this time of his life, or is it from that I recognize the quality of the work itself? And because he, in all his works, they are remarkable. Particularly the inner soul are in the eyes, but this one has absolutely captivated me. And I'll only add that, when I look at this original thing, and there's an absence of numerous reproductions for public consumption. So, like this is the real thing. And the sad look remains in my mind. It is a monumental work. It's a full frontal view, and he completely fills the space with very little background. And it's mostly, the space is filled by this rich Oriental costume and a large flat hat that kind of blends into the background. And in that, his face, the size of his face is smaller, but it emerges with an intensity that draws me in. There's a soft light that travels over the face, over the garments and his hands, and the garment is suffused with color. It glows in gold and red, and his hand is holding a staff, whatever it meant to be holding that staff. And the brushwork is broad, especially on the front of the gown. And the details are somewhat obscure. A cape, he has a cape, but yet it's incredibly powerful. He sits 3/4 size, enclosed in the flowing garments that imply richness, and his face is part in shadow cast by the hat. It is resigned, unsmiling expression. It has wrinkles, marks, bumps, deep furrows, and a loose, soft chin. His face has at times been called plebeian, which is such an incredible contrast as to who this man is and was. And his portraits capture the inner life of the sitter. They have remarkable eyes. And I said, it's the saddest ones that I have ever seen. It's not like Mona Lisa's smile. Maybe because it has a mystery, but a deep intelligence. And I know, so I don't know how much I'm imparting from knowing he suffered enormous losses in his life, his wife, 2 children, bankruptcy, facing losing social standing. And there was this man, and I'm struck, this man of great talent, a giant of painters who could paint. I'm thinking, well, he's looking at himself and painting it from a mirror. And the costumes, was it that he retreated into a private world that had honor, regard, or is it an Oriental fantasy? And I'm thinking, what if he had known his work will remain valued for centuries? It's kind of incredible for me. And well, now we have the camera. A camera can capture sadness, but it's flat. It just doesn't have the richness of paint, the magic of a creator. So, and then I put in the Polish writer because that one has remained in my memory primarily because more than 50 years or so, I took an art history class, and part of the test was to flash a piece of a painting and you had to identify it. And I think we got the back of the horse and his tail. And well, I missed out on that one. And then to add to it, I learned lately that the painting has been judged not to be a Rembrandt. And it made me curious, but not curious enough, or let's say maybe I will do it now. Research how on earth did they arrive at that? But actually, I prefer to think it is Rembrandt. And as much as, it's a contrast to this old, sad man. Maybe that was also him at one time. It was wild in his imagination as this handsome young man riding on a powerful horse, richly adorned, with red and white and all those rich colors. Also, I learned that this particular painting has been linked to a Dürer. Dürer's celebrated Night of Death. And a number of well-known people have been fascinated by the Polish writer. Even including Giacometti and a collector, Wagstaff. So it's just that both of these just capture my imagination and aroused an intense emotion. And I found it was a pleasure actually to look at this away from the more modern. I saw the Helene Scherbeck, but there's something so special about this.
Thank you. Thank you. This is very interesting and very appealing. Your question about whether it's your knowledge of Rembrandt or the painting is a very fundamental and interesting question. We've talked about that kind of thing with regard to other artists. So you've come upon this on your own, but the same thing would be true of Van Gogh. Is it your knowledge of his life, or is it what's in the painting? Anyway, I want to continue, and this is Carol. Carol?
Yes, I'm unmuting. Okay, good. Well, obviously, these are two very familiar portraits, which reflect one of the major changes in Scherbeck's painting. The painting on the left, self-portrait 1884-85, is oil on canvas and is just 19 3/4 by 16 inches, small. It was painted when she was 22 years old and studying in Paris. And it is the first of her self-portraits, of which there were ultimately, I think, 40 or more. The painting on the right is self-portrait black background, 1915. It is also oil on canvas and is 18 by 14. Scherbeck was 52 years old by then when she painted it and was living outside of Helsinki with her mother. Self-portrait 1884-85 is a remarkable study for a 22-year-old. The face is a traditional reproduction of what she actually looked like, but the painting itself is not traditional. The background is made up of many layers of paint. The palette is brown and gold with some red in it. The strokes are broad, and by using the same palette throughout, her figure emerges from the background with her hair and blouse just a fainter version of the background colors. The gold of the background is even reflected on the lower side of her left side of her face. It's a very sophisticated portrait for someone 22 years old. The 1915 portrait reflects a major change in Scherbeck's paintings. Her figure is much more abstract, with the monochromatic background and the absence of detail. She has those same blue eyes, but here there are no irises, but solid blue pupils. And the purple around her eyes, which you can't see as well in this, but it's pretty purple in the painting, probably reflects tiredness rather than eyeshadow. But her look is not very different from the portrait done 30 years before. Her painting, though, is very different. Her strokes are broad and fairly undefined, and the surface has been abraded, as was her style by this time. While she even includes the black background in the title, it is, of course, not just black. When she removes paint, you can begin to see the colors that preceded the black, as well as lots of the canvas. While her figure is radically different than the early portrait, there is no question, but it is the same woman looking out in the same way.
Hmm.
That's it.
Very, very good. Very, very good. Very interesting.
Nice comparison.
Yeah, very nice,
Very
Carol.
nice.
I hadn't noticed actually how much likeness there was between the two portraits.
Yeah,
I
Me
see it
neither.
now.
right. Yeah, I thought it was amazing that.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, really, really interesting. It's quite an exhibit, I thought.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, really very thought-provoking. Um, so the next one that I have here is Dean. Dean, are you still here?
I'm here.
Okay, you got it.
All right. As try as I might, I wasn't able to write anything, but I'm going to have to kind of freeform it here. So the two images I chose, the first one on the left is the Giovanni Bellini from the Frick collection, done in the let's see, 1475 to 1480. And the one on the right is the Felice Casarati called Daphne in Paviloma, I believe. It was their sort of retreat in Italy. And he was about 51 when he did it. These paintings, I believe, are about the same height to each other. And what kind of struck me to choose these two is is that both St. Francis there and Daphne, they have the same, they gave me the same sort of feeling of this of someone absorbing this beautiful sunlight and just sort of absorbing it in. And I was curious to see how the painters sort of achieve that effect in two sort of very different ways. If you get a high resolution image of the Bellini, it's almost impossibly detailed. As you look into the leaves or the almost the moss and things like that, or into the distance, the architecture was definitely drafted on the board before it was painted, and each crenellation of these castle-like buildings and arches of these viaducts are all detailed to the hilt, but somehow the broad strokes of the painting, for instance, the rock-like formation is almost architecturally created that surrounds St. Francis. His lectern there with the Bible and the skull on it, extremely so you have the architectural detail, but the simple forms, the warm sort of peach colored robe and his face and head and hands surrounded by this slightly, I guess, cooler green is very similar, I think, in what Casarati achieved with his wife's face and hands surrounded by that cool green distant landscape, the vineyards, and the blue fabric of her dress. The other thing is I was thinking about sort of, if you're inhabiting this painting, you sense that human need that we talk about in architecture school, about prospect and refuge, that is sort of a human desire, to be in your safe place, but looking out onto some sort of view. And they've both achieved this amazing foreground. You can see these tiny little weeds coming up from the bottom of the Bellini painting. And in the foreground, her knees are almost right coming out of the frame, but then you see, as far out into the distance. Um, um, I guess it's just, again, it's interesting to see that the super fine detail that Bellini uses is so different from the looseness of the Casorati painting. The background is very similar material as far, subject matter. For instance, there are fields and plant material in the background in the St. Francis in Ecstasy, but in the Casorati, there's also vineyards and trees and shadows of the fields, but it's very loose. It almost looks like a watercolor painting, but it's done in oil. The other thing that's kind of interesting that's talked about a lot is that light. If you can see in the very top left corner, there's like a white crack in the sky where if you look close enough, there's little rays of light coming at an angle, and you can see the shadows all are pretty coherent with the sun being in the top left corner of that painting. The shadow, for instance, on the back of St. Francis, and the shadow going to the right. What's kind of strange is that in the Casorati, it seems like the sun is kind of on the top left too. When you look at the shadows in the fields from the vineyards, the sun should be in the top left in that painting too. But her face and neck is dark on the left. So, but it's, again, his play of space is kind of interesting. It's it looks like what may be a mirror on the left. Maybe there's another wall on the right that's catching the sun and reflecting light onto her right side. So it's, in a way, it creates an extra mystery in the Casorati painting that really captures, I guess that's maybe why some of his work is called magical realism. It gives you really something to toy with. There's nothing really that you can really tell if that blue coming down is a curtain or a wall, or on the left is a mirror, or if she's on a balcony. So I just love the mystery, really, of both of them in their own way.
Dean, this is an amazing thing to present without written word. So you've observed a great deal here. How do you do that?
How did you just do that? That's amazing.
Procrastinate. That's what I do. Procrastinate. Sorry about that. Kind of ADD.
But you spoke well about them, and that's like a wonderful comparison in many ways, and you discussed all the ways. I think that's I'm impressed with the selection and then the way that you described it with no writing.
Yeah, very nice. I love that Casorati. That's beautiful.
I have a question. I have a question, Dean. You commented on the inner life of the sitter and the sunlight.
Yeah.
And could one be so bold as to say that the inner life of the sitter and the sunlight are spiritual and religious, or something that is like that but doesn't have those names.
Yeah, I I have to say, just an anecdote. You see St. Francis, it looks like he's actually like worshiping the sunlight there, or like taking in the holiness. And they talk about him receiving this stigmata and on his hands. So he's having some religious experience that's uniting him with Christ, apparently. But I had a gentleman down the block that I never met him personally, but I called him the Sunshine Man, because he lived in an apartment, and every day he'd come down, and he was a rather rotund man, and he'd have that same posture as St. Francis, and he just faced the sun every day, an hour or so.
No one was following him. No one was following him. He had no followers. We'll get back to that in a second. I want to make sure that everyone goes, at least everyone that I have on this list. So the next one is Barbara.
I have to log into my computer just a second.
Okay.
This already looks like a good comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Let's
So
get
this
some
is
light on
this
YouTube.
is another page of Helene Schoenbeck's photos from a similar age difference in ages from ones we've seen previously. So I chose them because they both were pictures of children, and I like them both, but they're from very different periods in her artistic career. So the Convalescent on the left was painted in 1888 and is about 36 inches tall and 42 inches wide. The subject of the painting is a child presumably recovering from an illness. I wondered if Scherfbeck was drawn to the subject because of the time she spent recovering from a broken hip when she was young. When I was looking for an image of this painting, I noticed a caption that identified the model as a badly behaved child whose teachers were likely relieved to release her from school to sit for the painting. She does not look badly behaved in the painting, however. The painting was done in Cornwall in Great Britain when Scherfbeck was 26 years old. The subject is a child sitting on a wicker chair supported by a large white cushion behind and wrapped in a white blanket. The child's face glows with reflected light. She has the look of one who's had an illness, her tousled hair, perhaps from spending time in bed, and the flushed cheeks and glassy eyes that might indicate a fever. She's looking at and holding a cup that contains the branch of a plant with green leaves. A slash of white under the table, perhaps from the paper in a book, echoes the white of the pillow and sheet. Many of the colors used in the painting are somewhat muted, but in addition to the green in the leaves, there's a splash of red, perhaps a flower on the table, and blue in the cup that she's holding. In front of the child is a table that, in addition to the cup, holds a glass stoppered bottle sitting on a white doily, a glass partly filled with water, and a book. Light is reflected from the glass objects on the table and also from the table surface and even from the light, the eyes of the child. The background is painted in dark muted colors, wood from the window frame and books on a shelf. Girl in Black, which is also known as Schoolgirl Number 2, was painted in 1908 when Scherfbeck was 46 years old. It's about 27 inches tall and 15 inches wide, so a little smaller than the convalescent. The painting was done when she was living with her mother in Hrbinka. And the subject of the painting is of a young girl standing very straight and facing to the right, with her hands overlapping in front of her waist. Her thin red hair, which looks very similar to the girl that was crocheting in the earlier picture, same color and thinness. Oh, I lost my place here. Her expressionless eyes gaze ahead, focused in the distance. The pale skin of the girl's face and her hands and the muted background colors are in stark contrast to the black of her garment. The dress with a high plain collar and long sleeves covers her legs to mid-calf. Her legs and feet are painted black without detail, so she may be wearing black tights with flat black shoes or black boots that are higher than the hem of her dress, but the viewer isn't able to tell. The shape of the dress is loose and flares out a bit toward the bottom as if there were a gathered flounce. The background is painted in mottled brown tones with little detail, showing only a wall with molding at the base and the floor. I really like the color of that. There's sort of a mauve color to the molding that contrasts with the floor and the wall. The girl is standing on an oval that is somewhat lighter than the rest of the floor, so perhaps she's standing on a rug. On the whole, the lines of the painting are not sharp, especially below the hands of the figure. There's a dark region in front of the girl that reflects the shape down to her hands in a way that's in the picture of the sailor. It was pointed out that the background followed the shape as well. Perhaps, yeah. So anyway, the two paintings that I chose were painted 20 years apart and present a dramatic change in Schurfbeck's painting through this period of time. The earlier painting is in a naturalistic style filled with details, while the latter painting is devoid of details. The convalescent exudes an optimistic feeling. The girl is portrayed with an open, wistful expression that leaves the viewer with a feeling that she's recovering for her ailment. In The Girl in Black, The Girl in Black does not give the viewer a sense of the emotional state or personality of the subject, but presents the figure of the girl pared down to its essence. The style of the painting is abstract, without detail in the background and little detail on the figure of the girl. So they're very different paintings, but I really like them both. So, nice to spend so much time looking at them.
Yeah, when I was listening to you, I was thinking that it's a shame that you couldn't have seen these in person.
I felt the same way watching the movie and looking at all of her pictures too. I'd love to have seen them.
Yeah, very, very nicely done, Barbara. Really. So
very, very nice. I like the comparison very much.
The last person I have, I hope I mentioned in my two recent emails that I had a problem. Some of the images disappeared. So I hope if you're here, you didn't send me something that I misplaced, because I tried to say that send it to me again, but the only additional person I have is Charles. So I hope if that was the case, please send it again and we'll figure out how to get it in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So Charles, you have the honor of going last.
Okay. Okay, so I chose these two paintings by Rousseau, and I'm reading so I can't see them. So let me just see which is on which side. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the one on the right first. Okay, so I chose these two paintings by Rousseau, Carnival Evening and Surprised, because I was interested in the contrast between the quiet stillness and intimacy of Carnival Evening and the intense dynamism of Surprised. Although intimacy might seem a strange way to describe a painting in which the subjects occupy a tiny portion of the painting, the composition evokes the intimacy of the relationship and experience of these lovers enjoying a stroll, arm in arm, in the evening during a break from their work at a carnival. The light-colored clothing of the figures practically glows against the trees of the forest behind them, which in turn are silhouetted against pale clouds. The shape of the canvas and verticality of the composition adds to the effect, isolating the figures at the base of the tall, straight trees, which create an atmosphere of stillness. There is a tinge of lightness along the top of the grass, like a halo, especially right behind the couple, while above the clouds, the sky gradually darkens, revealing moon and stars. The lovers are alone in the vast universe, focused with intensity only on each other. A few spare details suffice to conjure stories in the mind of the reader. The exotic clothes and dark complexions of the lovers, the head of the ticket collector visible in the window of the ticket booth, the small canopy and the fence around the carnival grounds, silhouetted against the sky. Perhaps the carnival is closed and the ticket collector is counting the proceeds. The man appears to be holding a cigarette. His expression is pensive. The woman tilts her head in his direction. What is he thinking? What is she hoping for? In Surprised, everything is in motion. The tiger, presumably surprised by lightning and thunder, is leaping. The wind is blowing fiercely. The trees, in contrast to the stately forest of Carnival Evening, are bent low, the grass swaying under driving rain. Here, both the composition and the framing are horizontal. The sense of motion is also enhanced by the use of color and texture. The patch of red on the right side of the painting echoes the orange of the tiger's fur and gums, while the white stalks and feathery tops of two plants to the left echo the tiger's whiskers. As one's eyes move among these chromatic echoes, the picture itself seems to move. This sense of motion is further enhanced by the slanted lines of rain painted over the entire canvas. Two features common to both paintings are their exploration of texture and their fascination with the exotic. Exotic people in the case of the carnival performers, who are probably Romani. Exotic landscapes and fauna in the case of the startled tiger in the storm. Additionally, the style in which the tiger is depicted is reminiscent of Chinese painting. In Surprise, the superposition of rain and varied leaves creates an almost tapestry-like texture. In Carnival Evening, texture is particularly notable in the pattern in the carnival fence mixed with the branches and the sky behind it.
Excellent.
Bravo.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, bravo.
very good, very
Thank you.
good.
I would not have. That was really wonderful. I would like to hear it again at some
Thank
point.
you.
It really all of a sudden stopped, and I kept thinking more, another paragraph, more.
We want more. No, it gave us enough, but we were riding along nicely.
So there's one thing I wanted to add, which let me go back to this part. Yeah. So there's one thing I wanted to add, which I learned tonight, which is I've defined an essay as slow looking, really describing things, and some personal point of view. So I think after hearing these tonight, I want to add a third ingredient. The third ingredient is a conjecture, which is offbeat, not forced, not to be different, but natural, coming out of your own heartbeat. And the best example I could give is the one I think with Ron, you proposed the idea of five senses, and I don't see Ron here now, but I like that a lot. So that seemed not just personal, but highly highly special or singular. Um, so you have three possibilities. One is the descriptions, the adjectives, the what it is you're looking at, the slow looking. The second is you're trying to be who you are. You're seeing it through your eyes. It's very personal. It's a personal point of view. And then if you can hit the third one, which is some singular conjecture or some singular pronouncement that appears different, unique. So, for instance, in Philippa's, it was a certain identification with the artist and the artist's life that came through. And with John's, it was the sense of quiet, the poetry of being. A good portrait is an enigma, ineffable. So that's beyond just a personal point of view. It's something like a realization, some thunderbolt of insight. Wonderful, really, absolutely wonderful, very high quality. And I like the way, if you weren't used to this, you really went with it. And that's great. You have to have a good sense of humor in life. And Susan,
Good point.
Susan, you have a very good sense of humor. That's really terrific.
Susan, you're great.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, I'll see you next week. Very beautiful class. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
Everybody.
Thank you so much,
Thank
everybody.
Thank you. Totally enjoyed it.
Fantastic.
Okay. I hope I didn't leave anyone out in terms, if I did, write to me, okay? Alan, you sent me something?
No, no.
Yes, quite a while ago, actually.
Oh my. You didn't see any of my emails that said I misplaced some of this?
I guess not.
I'll get I'll get back to you next week or the week after or the week after, and you'll have a chance to do that. Okay? Okay. I'm sorry, but I did write to everyone once or twice to say this, and I asked people to write back to me, and it's
I
my
may have missed that.
no, I goofed. So we'll get next week. We'll start with you. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, great. You're not getting out of this. Okay. All right. So I'll see you next week. And Mary, the same with you. Okay. Okay. All right. So I'll see you next week.
Okay,
Okay.
have a good week.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye. Have a great week.
Bye. So sorry, Alan.
No, it's okay, really.
Terrible. I don't like that. I don't like that. Terrible. Rita, what do you think of my third part of the ingredients?
Well, I think it's very interesting.
I only thought of that today.
Yeah. There's always something that, sometimes we don't like to speculate too much because we feel that we're having an insight that really makes no sense. We're inventing an insight. But
Well,
especially
that's
the background of the artist.
but that's the proviso that it has to be just right.
But I also think the reason we love art is that it provokes us to connect up to things that were not originally meant to be provocative in the painting. It's something we bring to the painting that we can speculate about.
Yes, I should have added that. You should have added that. That's perfect. That's really perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the painting.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I'm surprised nobody compared Helene, that cool Nordic austere painting, with Casorati. His more
That's right. That's
rich,
right.
sunny,
Warmer quality.
yeah. I mean, that's something I thought about doing also. I thought it would be a really good juxtaposition, but I chose something else instead. You can't choose everything, right?
Yes, that's right. You can't breathe in and out at the same time.
Exactly.
That's a very good point. I didn't think of that. That's a really good point. To possibly down the road, maybe to deal with that.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes the paintings that we remember from earlier in our lives being exposed to, why do we remember them? It's because it evokes something that may have nothing to do with what was meant to provoke.
Yes. I thought that the quality is just amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Really,
everybody is really at a high level.
Amazing. I never realized I was such a good teacher of writing.
Well, you're not judgmental, and that allows people to come forth.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. I will see you next week. Okay.
Have a good week.
Yeah. Nice seeing you too. Yeah.
Same here.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
More. Ooh. Renee, I have a question for you. In this setting, there's nothing that says stop recording.
What do you mean in this setting?
I recorded the whole thing. I recorded the whole thing, but usually there's something that says stop recording. This is end meeting. It was over here.
No, here's end.
Oh, this. End meeting for all.